Hi everyone, happy Friday. So I have a book for you today that I think you're really going to like because I know that a lot of you like fairy tales and folk tales. But what you might not know is that a lot of fairy tales show up in lots and lots of cultures throughout the world. And it's just some of the details are a little bit different. So the one we're going to read today is called Chinye. And it comes from West Africa. It says that in the title. And you might be able to see on the picture that the girl is dressed in traditional West African clothing, and she's holding what's called a gourd. We might see those as decorations around here, around in the fall, Thanksgiving, Halloween time. So that's what that is when you see that part in the story. But I hope that as you're listening to the story, you will recognize this story. Even though the details are different, I'm hoping that you'll recognize that it's the same fairy tale that you've probably heard before. And it might even sound a little bit like a couple of different fairy tales mishmashed together. So don't worry about that if you can't decide which one it is. So let's go ahead and read Chinye, a West African folk tale.
Long ago, there lived a girl called Chinye. Her mother and father were dead, so she lived with her stepmother, Kechi, and her stepsister, Adanma. Every day, Kechi made Chinye do all the work and sent her back and forth through the forest to fetch water. Chinye was a quiet, obedient girl, and she worked as hard as she could to please Nkechi. She got no help from Adanma, who was spoiled and lazy. One night, there was no water in the house to cook supper. Adanma had used all of it for a bath, but it was no good trying to explain this to Kechi. "Go to the stream at once and get more water, you bad girl," she shouted angrily. To reach the stream, Chinye had to go through the forest. Wild animals prowled there, and even on moonlit nights the bravest villagers stayed at home. Chinye begged Kechi to let her borrow water from a neighbor instead. It was no good. "Be off with you," Kechi shouted, thrusting the heavy water pot into Chinye's arms. Weeping, Chinye set off into the forest. Danger lurked behind every tree. A lion roared and her heart jumped. Then, right in front of her, a shape loomed up on the path. Chinye screamed. Too terrified to run, she shut her eyes and prayed. "Where are you going, child?" asked a gentle voice. Chinye opened her eyes in wonder. By the light of the moon, the shape looked like an antelope. "To the stream to fetch water," she whispered. "The forest is no place for you at this time of night," the voice said. "Go home." Chinye shook her head. "I can't. My life is bad enough already without making my stepmother angry." The shape sighed and let Chinye pass. A little further on, a second shape appeared. This one looked like a hyena. Once again, Chinye screamed and shut her eyes, but the creature's voice was full of love and kindness. Hearing why Chinye was out so late, it said, "Go on your way with my blessing, but take care. A lion is following me. Hide behind this tree and wait until it has passed." When the lion had gone, Chinye crept out from behind the tree and hurried on toward the stream. She hastily filled the water pot, then ran back the way she had come. Suddenly, right in front of her, she saw an old woman bent with age. "Bless you, child," she told Chinye, reaching out as if to hold her. "Listen to me. As you go on your way, you will pass a hut and hear the sounds of drums and singing. Go in, and you will find the floor of the hut covered with gourds, some big, some small, some quiet, some noisy. One of them will call to you, 'Take me!' But do not take it. It is full of evil things. Choose the smallest, quietest gourd, and when you get home, break it open on the ground." The old woman blessed her again and disappeared. Sure enough, in a little while Chinye heard the sound of drums and singing, and there by the path in the moonlight stood a hut she had never seen before. Chinye lowered her water pot carefully to the ground and went in. Everything was just as the old woman had said. Gourds of every shape and size covered the floor, and from one of them a voice cried, "Take me!" But Chinye remembered the old woman's warning. She searched until she found the smallest, quietest gourd and took that instead. Once more the figure of the old woman appeared. "You have chosen wisely," she said. "Make good use of whatever fortune brings you." She stretched out a hand and touched Chinye tenderly on the cheek. "Now go home in peace, my child." Ketchy was waiting at the door of their hut. "What took you so long?" she demanded, glaring. "And what's that in your hand?" She pointed suspiciously at the gourd Chinye was carrying. "An old woman gave it to you. What's inside?" She snatched the gourd and rattled it violently, but it made no sound, and she tossed it aside. "Hurry up and build a fire. We've waited long enough for food tonight." So there was no chance for Chinye to break open the gourd that night. The next morning, Chinye woke early. Ketchy and Adanma were fast asleep. Chinye found the gourd and crept out to her father's old hut, then locked the door and smashed the gourd on the ground. At a stroke, the bare hut was transformed into a treasure house. Gold ornaments spilled across the floor, mingled with ivory and swaths of rare damask and all the colors under the sun. Chinye rubbed her eyes. Then she ran to wake her stepmother. When Ketchy saw the treasure, for once in her life she was speechless. To think that such treasure had come from a gourd. Why couldn't it have been Adanma who met the old woman? Aha! Ketchy's eyes gleamed greedily. Maybe it was not too late. That very night, Ketchy carried out her plan and sent Adanma down to the stream to fill the pot. Like Chinye, Adanma met the antelope, the hyena, and the old woman. But unlike Chinye, she paid no attention to the old woman's advice. And when she came to the hut and heard one of the biggest gourds say, "Take me," she did just that. "Look, Mother," she said proudly when she got home. "I chose the biggest gourd I could." Ketchy rubbed her hands. The bigger the gourd, the greater the treasure. And with a cry of, "We're rich! We're rich!" she snatched the gourd from Adanma and dashed it to the floor. There was a flash of light and a clap of thunder. Ketchy and Adanma screamed and clutched each other. A great whirlwind sprang up, gathered all of their belongings, and flung them out through the window. Pots, pans, clothes, and cowries cowrie shells were swept away into the night. Ketchy and Adanma had lost everything. Too proud to ask Chinye for help, Ketchy left the village forever, taking Adanma with her. And Chinye? She used her wealth to help the people of her village and lived happily ever after.
I hope you liked that story as much as I do. I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but this book has been in my collection for a very long time. It's pretty beat up. It's seen lots and lots of love, and that means that lots and lots of children have gotten to share in this story and have enjoyed it. So I hope you liked it too. Now I'm wondering if you figured out what fairy tale this most reminds me of. And I told you there might be two, so it's okay if it's not exactly just one and you think it kind of has some parts from one and some parts from another, and that's okay. But I think the one that most people think of when they hear this story is Cinderella, because of the fact that her parents had both died, and then there's the stepmother and the stepsister. Now in our Disney Cinderella, we have two stepsisters. This one was just one, but you know, same kind of idea. And they were not very nice to her, and they made her do all the work. So that sounds a lot like Cinderella. And in the end, Cinderella made out pretty well, right? And in the end, Chinye had a happy ending as well. So that one sounds a lot like Cinderella. I'm not going to tell you what other ones they kind of sound like, because I'm hoping that you will get mom and dad to call me or text me or email me and tell me what you're thinking of, if you think of another one that it reminds you of. So get in touch with me and let me know if you think of another story that it is also similar to, that you know. What I love about this book, though, is that this story shows us some really good qualities that we're always trying to work on. For one thing, Chinye is a good listener. You might say that she's obedient, but not just to the stepmother who's kind of mean to her and really in charge of her, but she really listened to the characters that she ran into in the forest. And because she did that, and she was a thinker, and she listened to what they had to say, and she knew that they were wise, well, she had a happy ending. So that's a great lesson. The other wonderful lesson is that she was not greedy. When she went into the hut with all the different gourds, she followed directions and picked the small, quiet one, and not the one that was saying, "Pick me, pick me," unlike her stepsister. So her stepsister was more greedy, whereas Chinye was less greedy and only took what she had been told to take, what she had been offered. And then also at the very end, she shared that treasure with everyone in the village. Now, she did not share it with her stepmother and her stepsister because they went away. But I like to think that if they hadn't, she would have been kind to them, even though they were not kind to her at the beginning of the story. That's what I'm hoping would have happened. But we didn't get a chance to see that because they left the village. So I'm hoping that this book will remind you to be a good listener, and not being a good listener to just anyone, but to those around us that we know who have our best interests at heart and are wise, people like our parents, our pastors, and our teachers, and all those people that we know we can trust in our lives. And also a reminder to give back what God has given to us. God has given us many treasures, just like Chinye had a lot of treasures in the story. And she shared those treasures with everyone in the village. And I hope that that is a good reminder to share our treasures. And our treasures could be things, but it could be also our time and our energy and our compassion with other people. So I hope that you're going to take that away from this story and that you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend and week coming up. And I might even see some of you at church this coming Sunday. I really hope that I get to see you, but if I don't, just send me an email, have mom or dad send me a text and just say hello. I'd love to even just see a picture of you. I miss you guys. Love you. See you soon. Bye.